Hello, and welcome to The Sleepy Owl, a cozy nook where you can gently unwind and drift into a peaceful night's rest. Tonight, we're sharing another soothing story, one that can help settle your mind and foster a feeling of quiet calm. But first, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a tranquil, rejuvenating sleep. Settle in comfortably, and with each slow inhale and gentle exhale, allow the day's worries to gradually fade away. It can be challenging to pull away from the day's busyness, particularly as bedtime approaches. Yet remember, the less we stress over falling asleep quickly, the easier it becomes for our minds to release any tension. Let the gentle rhythm of your breath carry off lingering concerns, and let tonight's story be your guide toward deep relaxation. Now make yourself comfortable and let the warmth of the sleepy owl envelop you. Enjoy the story, and may you find a restful, peaceful slumber here in our little nighttime sanctuary. Within the embrace of Oak Haven Village, nestled like a seed in fertile earth, stood a simple, single-room cottage. Here lived Alara, a young woman whose hands coaxed wonders from wood. The nearby ancient olive grove, whispering with age, yielded the raw material for her delicate carvings. Her parents, too, were artisans of the everyday. Her mother conjured fragrant, life-giving loaves from flour and fire, while her father's fingers danced reeds into sturdy, intricate baskets. Their collective craft found its way to the bustling markets of Oak Haven and its neighbors. Though coins were never plentiful, their small dwelling held a richness beyond measure. The quiet hum of contentment, the warmth of shared purpose, their lives, woven into the fabric of the village, were complete. Yet, Elara harbored a luminescence, a secret held close. Scarcely a month passed, while questing amidst the gnarled olive trees for the perfect branch, destiny had unveiled a hidden cleft in the rock, a cave shimmering with forgotten magic. Within lay heaps of treasure, glinting like captured starlight, guarded by a djinn of formidable presence. Because her heart sought wood, not gold, the djinn had permitted her departure, even gifting her an olive branch of unparalleled quality, smooth and waiting for her knife. Since that day, Elara had felt drawn back to the cave's threshold, though the potent words to breach its stoned lips remained unspoken. Instead, she left offerings just outside the invisible door, small tokens for the sentinel within. A loneliness, she imagined, must cling to such a timeless vigil. Once, a portion of her mother's peerless bread vanished from the dusty earth with an ethereal whoosh and a brief, watery shimmer. Another time, one of her father's finest baskets met the same swift, silent acceptance. Her next pilgrimage saw her bring a carving, a small bird poised for flight. But awaiting her beside the hidden entrance lay a reciprocal gift. Slippers. Fashioned from robust crimson leather, they glowed with intricate embroidery of pure gold thread. Their soles, thick and resilient, promised protection against the harshest paths, yet possessed an elegance fit for royalty. Elara slipped them on, a perfect fit, naturally. they were, after all, gin-made. A smile bloomed on her face, directed towards the unseen guardian beyond the rock face. "Thank you," she whispered, placing her wooden bird upon the ground. Whoosh, shimmer, gone. Weeks dissolved into the rhythm of market journeys. Ilara and her parents traversed the dusty roads, their wagon laden. At each stop, the portable clay oven, radiating the irresistible perfume of baking bread, drew villagers like moths to a flame. Drawn by scent, they stayed for substance, often leaving with not just bread, but a carving, a basket, or both nestled amongst their purchases. Now, home again, their wagon lighter, their purses heavier, the season turned. Autumn breathed a slower cadence into the valley air, a welcome respite. Ilara anticipated the quiet months, a time for replenishment, for coaxing new forms from wood, preparing for the sun-drenched market days to come. More olive wood was essential. Dawn broke clear and bright, the sky vast save for a few wisps of cloud. Donning her magnificent slippers, Ilara whistled for Zephyr, her loyal canine shadow. Together they ventured towards the ancient grove, Ilara carrying a small clay pot of golden honey procured from a distant market stall. Another offering for the cave's solitary keeper. They meandered amongst the venerable trees, their twisted limbs reaching like arthritic fingers, their leaves dusty green ovals. Silence reigned, broken only by the rustle of unseen creatures and the hopeful songs of birds perched in the low-slung branches. The grove felt theirs alone. Approaching the familiar rocky outcrop, however, something felt amiss. The cave, usually sealed by unseen forces, stood open. Where magic words once dissolved stone, now only a dark aperture yawned. Ilara advanced cautiously, peering into the gloom. Silence echoed back. A knot of concern tightened in her chest. Concern for the djinn. She resolved to enter. Unlike her first visit, no mystical torches flared to life, illuminating the passage. Yet enough ambient light spilled from the entrance to guide her descent through the long tunnel towards the main chamber. The darkness gradually yielded, revealing a vast space ahead, faintly lit by a small opening high in the cavern ceiling. What the light revealed was emptiness, utter, echoing emptiness. Gone were the mountains of gold coins, some broad as her palm. Vanished were the cascades of jewels, the shadowed oil paintings, the serene marble figures. Ilara paced the barren floor, the transformation stark and unsettling, while Zephyr diligently explored the periphery, his nose deciphering the lingering scents clinging to the stone. Suddenly, Zephyr whined, pawing at a recess low in the wall. Something metallic gleamed faintly within the hollow. Ilara knelt beside him, reaching into the crevice. Her fingers closed around cool metal. With a gentle tug, then a firmer pull, she freed a plain brass lantern, much like those illuminating her own cottage, but tarnished and dull, lacking the familiar gleam of polished care. Instinctively, she rubbed its side with her sleeve. A soft whoosh like escaping breath, and before her floated the djinn, Qadir. Elara stumbled backward, landing softly on an unseen cushion of air, while Zephyr erupted in a frenzy of barks at the towering apparition. Qadir, twice the height of any mortal man, clad in flowing trousers and a tunic bound by a wide golden belt, hovered serenely, a gentle smile gracing his features as he regarded Elara's wide-eyed astonishment. Zephyr's barking persisted until Qadir glanced down, snapped his fingers, and conjured a substantial, meaty bone, tossing it toward the dog. Instantly distracted, Zephyr settled down with his prize. Relief washed over Elara at seeing her friend unharmed, quickly followed by consuming curiosity. Once her breath returned, she asked, "Qadir, what happened?" His voice, resonant yet kind, filled the empty space. The thieves, whose hoard he guarded, he explained, had grown suspicious. They sensed their secret cache was compromised. Qadir, bound to protect their ill-gotten gains, had remained silent about Elara's initial visit, fearing for her safety. But one thief, lingering behind, had witnessed her leaving the gifts. Confronted, Qadir confessed her visits, but swore she had taken nothing. Trust, however, had evaporated. They imprisoned him within the dull brass lantern, spirited their treasure away to some unknown corner of the kingdom of Eldoria, and abandoned the cave, leaving him trapped until her touch released him. Freedom felt strange, Qadir admitted, his brow furrowed. His obligation was dissolved. His path, for the first time in decades, was his own to choose. Remain in this empty stone shell, his long-time home, or perhaps embrace the traditional mischief of free djinn, playing tricks on unsuspecting mortals. Elara frowned. "That doesn't sound very fulfilling," she ventured gently. "Have you never dreamed of anything else? Something kinder?" Qadir paused, considering. A flicker of longing crossed his ancient face. "I have often," he confessed, "dreamed of seeing Eldoria, all of it." Joy sparked in Elara's eyes. She clapped her hands. "Me too. I long to see beyond this valley." She spoke of whispered legends, mountains crowned with eternal snow, vast pastures green with wheat and barley, sun-drenched acres of orange trees, and Argentus, the capital, where King Valerius reigned from his mighty stone citadel. Intrigued, Qadir's gaze sharpened. "Would you journey with me, Elara?" But her face fell. "I cannot. My parents would worry if I did not return soon." Qadir grinned, a flash of ancient power in his eyes. Another snap of his fingers. A large, richly patterned carpet materialized, hovering silently a foot above the cave floor. "This," Qadir announced, "will carry us faster than any horse, Elara. We can traverse the entire kingdom in but a day and in far greater comfort." The offer hung in the air, shimmering with possibility. To see her country, truly see it. The longing was a physical ache. Elara needed little time to decide. With a decisive nod, she stepped onto the plush surface, settling cross-legged near the back. "Zephyr, come!" The dog leaped up, curling contentedly in her lap. Kadir floated to the front. "To the mountains!" he commanded the carpet. With silent grace, the carpet drifted through the tunnel, emerged into the bright day, and ascended swiftly. Soon, the olive grove was a textured patch below. Then Oak Haven Village, her own cottage, a tiny speck in the familiar landscape. Minutes blurred, villages flashed past, the valley rim approached and was crossed. What would have been days of arduous travel evaporated in moments. As the foothills climbed towards Eldoria's formidable mountain range, the carpet matched their ascent. The ground below grew rugged, scored by the thin ribbon of a traveler's path. The air grew crisp, then cold. Elara shivered, noticing Kadir snapped his fingers again. Instantly, she was enveloped in the warmth of a thick, soft woolen coat and hat. Cozy warmth bloomed, chasing away the chill. "Thank you, Kadir," she murmured, gratitude warming her further. Patches of old snow appeared on the shadowed rocks. Ahead, nestled in a high valley, lay a village even smaller than Oak Haven. As they drew closer, Elara saw homes of mud brick, their walls and roofs thickly insulated with stacked bales of straw and dried grass. Insulation that doubled, she realized, as fodder for the goats and sheep huddled in nearby pens. Thin tendrils of smoke curled from tiny stovepipes, testament to the fires warding off the mountain chill within. The village seemed deserted, likely indoors for the midday meal. Kadir guided the carpet to a gentle landing just beyond its boundary, unseen. Snap! The carpet vanished. Simultaneously, Kadir shimmered, transforming. The towering jinn became a kindly middle-aged man, solid and walking upon the earth, though still clad in his distinctive tunic and golden belt. Their purpose here wasn't the village, but the wild beauty Elara had only imagined. With Zephyr trotting alongside, they followed a path leading further uphill, away from the settlement. They navigated around large boulders where tenacious, scrubby plants clung to life in the crevices. Their boots left prints in lingering patches of snow, alongside the tracks of villagers, goats, sheep, and something else. Prince Elara didn't recognize. A mountain lion. Kadir identified them quietly. Far from fear, a thrill coursed through Elara. Protected by Kadir, the chance to see such a creature was irresistible. Can we find it? Eyes scanning the ground, they moved slowly, tracing the large cat's passage. When the tracks faded on bare rock, Zephyr took the lead, his sensitive nose unerringly guiding them onward. Upward they climbed, eventually reaching a tall, solitary tree. Zephyr sniffed intently at its base, then looked up, letting out a sharp bark. There, nestled amongst the branches, regal and aloof, sat a magnificent lion. Its tawny coat was thick and smooth, the tips of its tail and tufted ears a deeper shade, its eyes molten gold. Clearly shy, it regarded the intruders with wary indifference. Elara hushed Zephyr. After drinking in the sight of the beautiful creature, they retreated quietly, leaving it in peace. Walking back, Elara inhaled the clean, sharp mountain air, feeling invigorated. They took a small side path, previously overlooked in their hunt for the lion. It opened unexpectedly onto a breathtaking scene. A pool of water so clear it seemed like liquid crystal, encircled by smooth gray rocks. Feeding the pool, a waterfall tumbled from a high rocky ledge, its descent shattering the sunlight into a mist sparkling with rainbow jewels. Had the air not been so bracingly cold, Elara would have plunged her feet into the inviting water. Instead, she stood, wrapped in warmth, simply absorbing its pristine beauty. Returning to the main trail, they climbed to its highest point. The vista unfolded around them. In one direction, higher peaks soared, their summits permanently white with snow. Turning, Elara could just discern her own distant valley, a familiar shape miniaturized by distance. And stretching away elsewhere lay the fertile plains, the breadbasket of Eldoria. That was their next destination. Back at their landing spot, Kadir snapped his fingers. The carpet reappeared. The djinn resumed his true form. They settled onto its surface. To the farmlands, Kadir instructed. The carpet descended, drifting down the mountainside at a leisurely pace. The landscape shifted with every passing moment, the temperature rising steadily. Soon, Elara shed the woolen coat and hat, the mountain chill a receding memory. Rocky slopes gave way to verdant fields, crops ripening under the warm sun. They soared over a large, prosperous-looking village before settling gently near an orange grove. Again, the carpet vanished, and Kadir assumed his mortal guise. To Elara's left stretched the orderly rows of orange trees, their dark leaves glossy, the air sweet with citrus. It wasn't her wild olive grove, but it possessed its own serene, shady appeal. Across the narrow dirt track to her right stood a field of towering corn, the stalks packed densely together. Intrigued by a plant she'd never seen growing, Elara squeezed between the tall stalks for a closer look, Kadir waiting patiently by the roadside. She'd only gone a few feet when a croaky voice startled her. "Well, hello there." Elara looked around. No one. Only Zephyr sniffing nearby, and a glossy black crow perched jauntily on a bent cornstalk, cocking its head, its bright eyes fixed on her. Then quite distinctly it repeated, "Hello?" Surprise flickered, but after flying down a mountain on a magic carpet beside a djinn, a talking crow seemed almost normal. She smiled. "Hello," she replied. "How can you talk?" Elara asked, curious. The crow ruffled its feathers. It wasn't sure, it admitted. It just listened to the farmers working the fields day after day, and eventually the words came out. The farmers, it added, never paid it much mind. Elara was the first person ever to talk back. "It lived in the orange grove," the crow explained, "just popping over to the field for daily corn snacks." "Will you show us your home?" Elara asked. With a flap of glossy wings, the crow launched itself across the path toward the shade of the trees. Elara and Zephyr followed, joined by the disguised Kadir. They found the crow perched on a low-hanging branch near the heart of the grove. Filtered sunlight dappled the ground. A soft breeze rustled the leaves. Branches hung heavy with ripe fruit, globes of deep orange contrasting vividly with the lush green foliage. As Elara admired the peaceful scene, a young farmer emerged, pushing a wooden wheelbarrow half laden with harvested oranges. He greeted Elara and Kadir cheerfully, asking if they needed assistance. Elara explained they were travelers, simply admiring the beautiful grove. Pleased, the farmer waved a hand expansively. They were welcome to wander, he said, even to pick a few oranges for their journey. Mindful of his generosity, Elara selected only 2 plump oranges, thanking him warmly. Peeling the fragrant rind as they strolled leisurely beneath the trees, they savored the sweet, juicy segments one by one. The crow fluttered alongside, offering snippets of harmless avian gossip, enjoying the company. But the day waned, and the capital city beckoned. Kadir summoned the carpet once more, waving farewell to their feathered companion. The trio ascended, Kadir directing the carpet towards Argentis. Altitude blurred the fertile farmland into a patchwork quilt below. Soon, the rural landscape yielded to denser settlements, signaling their approach to the capital. Kadir guided the carpet down into a small copse of trees, close enough to the city gates for convenience, yet far enough for discretion. Carpet hidden, gin disguised, the 3 travelers walked toward the entrance of Argentis. It was market day. The city thrummed with energy. Shops and inns overflowed. The wide streets teemed with makeshift stalls and simple wagons hawking everything imaginable: fruit, bread, candles, cloth. Smooth cobblestones paved the thoroughfares, and sturdy buildings of cut stone lined the way. Many adorned with charming window boxes, spilling cascades of colorful flowers against the gray stone. Though the market buzzed with life, Elara had seen many markets. Her gaze and her steps turned uphill towards the castle. King Valerius's home dominated the skyline, constructed not of common stone, but of a special granite, quarried far to the south, possessing a unique, beautiful green hue that made the castle shimmer distinctively. As they neared the castle gates, an elderly man walking just ahead tripped on a loose cobblestone, stumbling heavily. Elara rushed forward, offering her arm to help him regain his balance. He smiled, his eyes crinkling with warmth, declining her support, but thanking her for her kindness. "My home is just here," he said, gesturing toward the castle as guards, alerted by the commotion, hurried out. Their solicitous concern revealed the old man's identity: King Valerius himself. He explained his habit of taking clandestine afternoon walks amongst his people, a way to gauge their true concerns. Charmed by Elara's ready assistance, the king invited her and her companion, Zephyr included, inside for tea. Eagerly, they accepted. Flanked by guards, they passed through the grand entrance into a vast reception hall, the largest room Elara had ever witnessed. Chairs lined the walls. Intricate hand-woven carpets softened the green stone floor, and at the far end, raised on a dais, sat a single imposing throne, also carved from the green stone. But King Valerius didn't linger. He turned right, leading them through an unassuming door, down a short corridor, and into a much smaller, cozier chamber. Here, plush chairs invited relaxation, tapestries warmed the walls, and a gleaming brass tray held tea things and delicate cakes. Dismissing guards and servants alike, the king poured tea for his guests with the easy grace of a practiced host. They talked easily of books, of art, of travel. Elara and Kadir spoke of their journey, letting the king assume it had been a long, conventional trek by horseback, carefully omitting the magical conveyance. King Valerius listened, fascinated, particularly by Elara's affectionate descriptions of her distant valley and its ancient olive trees, a corner of Eldorius so remote, he confessed, he had never visited. Eventually, a polite cough from a guard reminded the king of pressing matters. The afternoon was fading, and Elara felt the pull of home. They took their leave of the gracious monarch, escorted back outside by a guard. The trio walked back through the market, now winding down as evening approached. Vendors packed their wares. Shoppers drifted towards homes or inns for supper. Reaching their secluded copse, Kadir snapped his fingers, and the carpet shimmered back into existence. One last time they climbed aboard. Kadir directed the carpet towards their valley, setting a slower, more languid pace. Floating gently above Argentis, Elara yawned, the day's wonders settling into a pleasant weariness. She lay back, pulling Zephyr close against her side. Closing her eyes, she let the smooth, rocking motion lull her toward sleep, replaying the day's adventures, the snow-dusted peaks, the talking crow, the kind king, like cherished images in her mind. It had been a day spun from magic and discovery, a memory she would hold forever. Zephyr sighed, snuggling closer, and together, beneath the vast twilight sky, the two travelers drifted into dream. To behold a rose unfurling is to grasp the fleeting pulse of now, a sensory anchor in the present moment. Yet this very perfection hints at impermanence. Knowing its bloom is but a fortnight's affair deepens our reverence for its transient grace. The rose, it seems, belongs wholly to today. We seldom ponder the deep roots of such ephemeral beauty. Astonishingly, the rose's lineage stretches into epochs almost beyond imagining. While not the planet's eldest floral dynasty, its presence spans an immense gulf of time, at least 35 million years. Consider a fossil unearthed in the high plains of Colorado, a stone imprint whispering a tale that old. Let that sink in. When that particular rose offered its petals to the ancient sun, the great dinosaurs had already slumbered in extinction for 30 million years. Homo sapiens, our own species, emerged a mere 300,000 years past. That Colorado rose, therefore, stands temporally closer to the reign of thunder lizards than it does to us. For millennia upon millennia, wild roses scattered their progeny across continents untamed. The earliest verifiable whispers of deliberate cultivation, however, arise from the annals of ancient Cathay around 500 BCE. It's conceivable that similar efforts were budding concurrently in the sun-drenched lands of the Mediterranean and Persia. Alongside nurturing wild varieties, gardeners began coaxing forth new forms, cultivating a lineage that would become known as the China rose. This remarkable strain, blooming continuously through its season, is the progenitor of countless modern cultivars. The emperors of Cathay harbored a profound obsession. The sage Master Kong, living in the 6th century BCE, recorded that the imperial library housed 600 scrolls dedicated solely to the rose's nurture. This royal fascination endured for ages. Under the Han sovereigns, centuries later, cultivation exploded onto a grand scale. For a time, farmland itself grew scarce, as emperors commanded vast tracts of palace gardens and surrounding countryside be transformed into rippling seas of roses. Meanwhile, in disparate corners of the globe, the rose wove itself into the cultural fabric in different ways. In the realms of ancient Hellas and Rome, widespread cultivation like Cathay's seems absent. Nevertheless, the rose resonated with potent symbolism, held in high esteem. Perhaps it was here, amongst olive groves and marble temples, that the rose first became entwined with love's fierce heat. The Hellenic embodiment of love, Cytherea, and her Roman echo, Lyra, were both intimately associated with its form. Recall Sandro the Florentine's masterpiece, The Birth of Lyra. The goddess, poised on a seashell amidst the waves, while gentle winds shower her with falling pink roses. Myths abound. One tells of white roses springing from the sea foam at Cytherea's birth. Another recounts the goddess piercing her foot on a thorn, her divine blood staining the pristine petals crimson. Like Cytherea, Lyra reigned as the deity of roses, love, and matrimonial bonds in ancient Rome. Women carried roses as offerings to her temple, and the blooms frequently adorned bridal bouquets, nascent threads, perhaps, of the flower's enduring romantic tapestry in the West. But the rose whispered secrets, too. For the Romans, it became an emblem of confidentiality. During sensitive political conclaves, a single rose hung upon the chamber door signified discussions veiled in strictest privacy. This practice evolved into another tradition, embellishing the ceilings of banquet halls with rose motifs. Guests, even when sub vino, under wine's influence, were reminded they were also sub rosa, under the rose. The silent flowers counseled discretion. Intriguingly, mythology offers its own origin for this custom. Eros Minor, the mischievous godling of love, once presented a perfect red rose to Tacitus, the god of silence. Eros Minor sought to keep his mother Lyra's romantic dalliances confidential, bribing silence itself with the flower's beauty. In Roman times, roses also played vital roles in ceremony. Across the sprawling empire, the festival known as the Rosalia saw garlands of roses and other blossoms laid tenderly upon burial sites. Here, the rose spoke of a different love, remembrance, hope, and the promise of rebirth. Showers of petals rained down during triumphs, honoring victorious generals returning home. Though these ancient rites have faded, echoes persist. Roses still grace religious ceremonies in Rome today. The venerable Pantheon, once a temple to all gods, now stands as a Catholic basilica. Each year at Pentecost, a breathtaking ceremony unfolds. Tens of thousands of rose petals drift down through the massive oculus in the dome, blanketing the marble floor below in fragrant drifts. This ethereal shower represents the descent of the Holy Spirit. Yet, while long imbued with spiritual weight, the rose could also signify something far more worldly, luxury, even decadence. Turning again to ancient Rome, we encounter the infamous tale of Heliogabalus, one of Rome's less celebrated emperors, ascending to power at 14 and reigning but a few years. Legend paints him as more devoted to revelry than ruling. At one notorious dinner party, he allegedly arranged for a cascade of petals to fall from the ceiling, utterly burying his guests. A famous 19th century painting vividly captures the imagined scene. The young emperor reclines, indifferent, while his companions vanish beneath a suffocating pink tide. Another ancient story features the legendary Nile Queen, who reputedly employed roses in her theater of seduction. Her bedchamber, it's whispered, lay knee-deep in petals, and she favored pillows stuffed with their fragrant softness. Whether extravagant myths or embellished truths, these narratives cemented the rose not just as an emblem of love, but of opulent power and luxury. Over time, its value swelled, amplified by legendary associations as much as by its intrinsic loveliness. There is more to the rose than meets the eye or delights the nose. Across centuries and cultures, humanity is drawn upon the flower's nutritional and medicinal gifts. Rose hips, the ruby-like fruits nestled beneath the fading blooms, are packed with vitamin C. The petals themselves are believed to possess antibacterial and anti-inflammatory qualities. In the traditions of herbal medicine, they serve to soothe troubled digestion, ease stress and tension, and elevate the spirit. The Rosa gallica, known fondly as the apothecary's rose, was a staple in medieval physic gardens. Its large, fragrant pink blossoms yielding components for remedies and perfumes alike. By steeping petals in water, their volatile essence can be captured, transformed into fragrant oils. This alchemy thrived not only across Europe, but also in parts of Asia, particularly Persia, modern-day Iran. For hundreds of years, Persian artisans have masterfully extracted essential oil from rose petals. This precious oil forms the heart of perfumes and incense, while its fragrant byproduct, rose water, remains a common ingredient in cuisine, beverages, and cosmetics. From potent remedies to intoxicating perfumes, the rose boasts myriad practical applications. For contemporary gardeners, however, its primary allure lies in its ornamental splendor. And within Western culture, the rose is perceived first and foremost through the lens of romance. Beyond being the traditional Valentine's offering, it stars in countless poems and songs. Intriguingly, The trajectory of the rose's modern romantic status can be traced back to one specific, extraordinary garden, that of the Château de Malmaison, some 15 kilometers west of Paris. Acquired in 1799, this grand estate became the residence of Amélie, wife of the formidable General Napoleon. In the early years of the 19th century, while the general reshaped nations overseas, Amélie poured her energies into transforming the house and grounds. Her upbringing on the sun-drenched Caribbean island of Martinique perhaps instilled in her a passion for collecting flora and fauna from distant shores. In a letter, she declared her ambition to create the most beautiful and curious garden in Europe and a model of cultivation. Amélie cultivated all manner of exotic plants, even constructing a heated orangery for pineapples. Her domain also included a menagerie of animals: kangaroos, zebras, ostriches, permitted to roam the extensive grounds. Visitors to the chateau at the time were likely most astonished by encounters with Amélie's exotic pets. But the true enduring legacy of Malmaison was its unparalleled rose garden. Amélie, whose own name, fittingly, could mean rose, became an avid, almost obsessive collector. The rose was her declared favorite. Aided by a team of expert gardeners and botanists, she filled the grounds of Malmaison with approximately 250 distinct varieties of rose. Her goal was nothing less than to gather every known rose in existence. The general even instructed the French Navy to confiscate seeds and plants from any ships they seized, diverting these botanical spoils directly to Amélie. Amélie's rose garden, immortalized in paintings and botanical illustrations, became a powerful source of inspiration for other gardeners and rose breeders throughout Europe. It stands as arguably one of the world's first and most influential gardens dedicated predominantly to a single type of flower, a novel concept for its time. This vast and varied collection held another crucial advantage. It included the ever-blooming roses originating from Cathay. Unlike most European roses known at the time, these China roses flowered repeatedly throughout the growing season. This characteristic endowed them with immense added value and commercial potential. Horticulturists began to experiment, interweaving the genetic lines of different rose types. Then, in 19th century France, a breakthrough occurred: the creation of the hybrid tea rose. This cultivar could be considered the quintessential modern rose. It possesses fragrance, vigor, exquisite form, and the coveted ability to bloom again and again. Furthermore, the hybrid tea rose typically grows on a long, sturdy stem, making it ideal for cutting and presenting as a single, elegant flower. These long-stemmed roses, now inextricably linked with romance and Valentine's Day, trace their lineage, albeit indirectly, back to Amélie's garden. The Empress, in her pursuit of botanical beauty, played a pivotal role in seeding the modern global rose industry. In essence, the romantic symbolism of the rose, cultivated over 2 millennia in the West, likely found its earliest expression with the goddesses Cytherea and Lyra. Centuries later, drawing inspiration from Empress Amélie's horticultural passion, breeders crafted the hybrid tea rose. This new flower united some of the most desirable traits of both European and Chinese rose traditions. It rapidly gained popularity as a romantic token with significant commercial appeal, its rise further bolstered by the Victorian era's elaborate language of flowers. But the narrative doesn't conclude there. Gardeners perpetually cultivate and conjure new iterations of the rose. They experiment with diverse varieties, following in the footsteps of the horticulturists inspired by Amelie's collection. To birth a new rose, a breeder starts by selecting two parents, roses possessing specific desired qualities. Perhaps the aim is a bloom combining a unique shade of apricot with a potent, spicy fragrance. Having chosen the progenitors, the breeder carefully transfers pollen between them, mimicking the work of bees in nature. This cross-pollination initiates the development of a rose hip, the fleshy fruit cradling the seeds of potential. Once the hip ripens, the seeds are meticulously extracted, stored, and eventually sown under controlled conditions. When promising seedlings emerge, the gardener selects the most compelling ones, transplanting them outdoors to observe their growth and resilience in a true garden setting. This painstaking process of selection and refinement is repeated generation after generation. Professional breeders might undertake as many as 100,000 distinct crosses, dedicating years of patient effort to produce just a few exceptional new rose hybrids. They arrive in a breathtaking spectrum of colors, from deepest crimson to the palest blush, bearing names as lovely as their petals: Moon Dance, Lavender Serenade, Velvet Whisper, and countless others. And all the while, amidst this human artistry, an ancient rose bush simply endures, growing and blooming year after relentless year. Unlike the carefully orchestrated creations of breeders, this plant is a product of pure, untamed nature. It is known as the 1,000-year rose, and it scrambles up the weathered wall of Hildesheim Cathedral in Germany. This specimen bears little resemblance to the long-stemmed Valentine's icon or the neatly pruned bushes of Amelie's garden. It is a wild, sprawling being, a dog rose that climbs the ancient brickwork like ivy. 10 meters tall, this venerable shrub appears for most of the year as a tangled mass of woody stems. But once annually, in late May, it bursts forth in a profusion of beautiful, pale pink blossoms, releasing a delicate, ethereal fragrance. The plant is called the 1,000-year rose because tradition holds that it dates back to the cathedral's founding in the 9th century. Legend tells of Kaiser Ludwig discovering one midsummer day a snowy mound inexplicably covered by a blooming rose bush. Taking this as a sign, he decreed that a cathedral be built on that exact spot, incorporating the miraculous bush. Through the ensuing centuries, the rose bush grew. It even miraculously survived the devastating bombing of the cathedral during the Second World War. While the beauty of most flowers is a brief, poignant sigh, the 1,000-year rose seems to touch upon the eternal. Each year, its blooms appear and inevitably fade, yet they always return, a living symbol of hope, resilience, and rebirth. Perhaps this reveals the truest beauty of the rose. It resides not solely in the vibrancy of its petals or its heavenly perfume, but in the profound meanings we humans have woven around it through the ages. Though individual blossoms wither, The significance of the rose lives on, as enduring, perhaps, as that very first ancient flower, the rose that unfurled 35 million years ago.